Jerome Walker had never once imagined himself standing inside a towering glass building with gold-plated doors and polished marble floors that stretched endlessly like a monument to wealth and arrogance, because for most of his life his world had been the grease-stained concrete of a half-broken garage on the south side, the smell of gasoline clinging to his clothes, and the sound of engines sputtering, coughing, then roaring back to life under his calloused hands. But fate has a strange way of dragging even the most humble souls into arenas where they are underestimated, laughed at, and tested, and that was exactly how Jerome, a man with no college degree, no corporate title, and no pedigree, found himself summoned to the boardroom of Grant Automotive, the largest automobile manufacturer in the country, not because they respected him, but because they wanted to humiliate him, prove him small, and remind him of his place. For years, Jerome had been repairing cars in his neighborhood, not just for money but because people depended on him, single mothers with broken-down sedans, young men scraping enough to keep their delivery vans alive, elders who couldn't afford a dealership's inflated prices, and with every repair he wasn't just fixing machines, he was studying them, learning their flaws, reimagining what could be better, until one long night, surrounded by the clatter of tools and the low hum of a battered radio, he began piecing together an idea, an engine so efficient, so clean, and so powerful that it could rival the multi-million-dollar prototypes produced in skyscraper laboratories. His neighbors called it madness, but Jerome's madness was brilliance disguised in dirt-streaked coveralls, and word began to spread until even executives in their ivory towers caught whispers that some black mechanic with a leaky roof over his shop had built something their engineers couldn't. At first they laughed behind closed doors, dismissing it as folklore, but the rumor persisted, and their curiosity curdled into contempt, so the CEO himself extended an invitation that was less opportunity than trap: come to the boardroom, show us what you've made, and let us laugh you back into obscurity. On the day of the meeting, Jerome's old pickup rattled into the parking lot, its paint peeling, its muffler growling like a dying beast, drawing stares from men in tailored suits who parked polished luxury sedans and German imports. They sneered as he stepped out in worn boots, his toolbox swinging at his side like a badge of defiance. Inside, the building swallowed him in its opulence: marble walls, gleaming elevators, and portraits of white-haired men who had run the company for generations, and when he finally pushed open the boardroom door, he was met with a sea of smirks, expensive watches gleaming under chandelier light, and laughter that cut sharper than any insult. "Gentlemen," the CEO announced, with mock seriousness dripping from his silver tongue, "let's welcome Mr. Walker, our guest from the South Side." Snickers erupted, one man whispering loud enough for Jerome to hear, "Maybe he'll show us how to fix a flat tire," while another chuckled, "Does he even know what torque is?" But Jerome stood tall, his expression unbothered, his dark eyes carrying the calm of someone who had already survived battles harder than this. He set his toolbox on the polished oak table, the loud clank echoing in the silence as the laughter faded into curiosity. Then he opened it, not to reveal a mess of dirty wrenches, but a prototype engine, small enough to fit on the table, yet designed with a precision that made even the most arrogant engineers lean forward in spite of themselves. "This," Jerome said, his voice steady and deep, "is what you've been missing." They rolled their eyes, expecting junk, but when he twisted the starter, the engine roared to life with a smoothness that no one in that room had ever heard. Its hum filled the space, low and flawless, not choking, not vibrating, but singing, and as it ran Jerome explained, not with jargon but with lived understanding, how he had restructured airflow chambers to maximize efficiency, how he had engineered cooling systems from recycled scrap, how he had solved problems their billion-dollar labs had ignored because they were too busy chasing profit margins instead of true innovation. The executives shifted uncomfortably, realizing that the man they had mocked spoke with the authority of someone who had lived in the heart of machinery, who had coaxed life out of dead engines at 3 a.m. when someone's livelihood depended on it. "You call me a mechanic," Jerome said, locking eyes with the CEO, "but mechanics are the ones who keep this world running. You build factories on theory. I built this on survival." By the time the engine quieted, the laughter was gone, replaced with stunned silence, and the CEO's polished smile faltered. Jerome packed up his prototype, snapped the latches shut, and turned to leave, but before walking out he glanced back once more, his words cutting sharper than any machine he had built. The next time you laugh at a man in overalls, remember, genius doesn't always wear a suit. The click of his boots against the marble floor echoed long after he was gone, louder than applause, because what Jerome had built that day wasn't just an engine, it was a revolution, a reminder that brilliance could rise from anywhere, even from the grease-stained hands of a black mechanic they thought unworthy.